Hello guys, my name is Adam Shadow, and as promised, this huge thing behind me is the latest iteration of the Ultimate Storage System. This is the first video about it, that's why I call it the version 5. Obviously there were many intermediate versions that you have never seen, and you probably don't even want to see since a lot of them were not perfect. Even this one is not, and I'll probably make a video in a couple months making an even better one. So, for those of you who are unaware about this design and why is it so effective and that I call it the ultimate design. First of all, this is a project for the Prototech SMP server, which is the oldest Minecraft vanilla technical server, at least as far as I know. This thing basically has to fulfill a lot of requirements, two of which are probably the most important one. First, resemble at least a whole of items, and the second one, reduce the lag as much as possible. So, now let's first talk about the interface here. This is actually the same as in the previous design. It has 10 different items per slice, ordered in this really nice layout, so you can easily tell which of these showcase blocks is connected to which item, or which button rather in this case, and that way you get the button item like this. As you can see, it's extremely fast at delivering the boxes to you. You can then open the box, take out the items, or just destroy it and click the button again. Or even stand on top of it and click the button again, and then you should be able to grab it. I have currently tile drops disabled. The capacity of this thing is something more than 27 boxes, because each of these droppers is 9 boxes, and then you have also this hopper. So yeah, it's enough to take out the entire inventory, at least these 3 rows here, from the machine, which is an insane amount of items. It will probably take you hours to use all of them up. And this is just the interface. We'll be later building a bulk storage system that will be mostly placed in unloaded chunks and therefore don't lag pretty much at all. As you can see, the client doesn't really like it, but it's still doable. It's still probably a lot better than having chests. These fence gates are not ideal since they have a lot of hitbox and, more importantly, textures on them, which all of them are loaded. For example, unlike these blocks, which the textures in between are not loaded actually. But still easily doable. It's much better than our storage that we have currently built. And the lag for having this fully loaded and loaded by a player, that means practically like standing next to it on a server, is in fact, I'll tell you right now, 1.07, let's say around 1.05, 0.98, I even got 0.95, yeah, so yeah, even 0.89, so roughly 1 millisecond per take. For those who are unaware, this means the server can process this entire machine in 1 millisecond, which to make the game run at so-called 20 TPS, which is basically the default rate at which servers in Minecraft run. It's basically 20 Hz, 20 updates of everything every second. You need 50 milliseconds. So this only takes 1/50th of the total server's performance, and this is not even a really fast server. This is just our creative multiplayer testing world, which is a lot slower than even the survival server. So, and even here we could run 50 of these machines, fully loaded, like everything here is filled completely, like even these hoppers here, which normally should not be filled completely, but are still, yeah. So I wasn't joking when I wrote the comment on the race video that we could run dozens of these. Here you can even see the numbers. Now, for how I achieved this pretty ridiculous feat, considering this 1000 items, and that is to avoid unlocked hoppers at all costs. As you can see, this machine can be divided into 10 modules, each module being 9 blocks wide, whatever blocks high. The reason because why it's 9 blocks is because of how far rails can transport signal. Basically, the bottom part here is a dropper pipe that feeds from either end to the center of the boxes. The rails here are in a special layout to allow it to be transported in the right update order as fast as possible. Those are not instant rails or anything like that, because instant rail lines, even though they are amazing, they cannot be tiled like this right next to each other. And the reason why there are two of them is to first transport the signal here and then send it in the right update order, because rails update from one end, basically from the other opposite end from which they were powered. So if they are powered here, the first one updates here, and we want to flip it so it transports the item in the right direction. Then we have 3 droppers here, which basically are our entire capacity of this interface, because this huge thing is basically just an interface, so we can have a bulk storage that stores items in unloaded chunks and therefore has basically infinite capacity. And we'll definitely build that eventually. These are 27 boxes, plus 5 of them in the hopper, but usually we'll only have 1 here, so 28 boxes. That's enough to fill almost the entire inventory at once. And there is only one unlocked hopper, and that's this one, which is necessary to run the machine. Like, you could maybe try somehow locking it in order to for some reason AFK next to the storage, but that's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. You probably want to only have players around it when the machine is running, so at that point the hopper will be unloaded anyway. The filters here, as some of you may have already noticed, are not actually from the previous iteration, which one we built on the server and later destroyed, because I came up with this one, which is a lot better, and since it's one my tileable, it's not a huge deal to rebuild. I don't know why the guys decided to completely level it. We could have kept at least these hopper lines here, but nevertheless, we will definitely build something like this, maybe even a different design I'm already working on, or also binary, another Prototech member is working on. This filter here I already explained, but the short explanation is simply the items here power up, the piston starts to extend as practically immediately as soon as the item enters the hopper, and because it starts to extend, it stops this hopper from being locked and allows it to suck in one item from the pipe. This allows these two pipes, this one will have items in it and this one will have boxes in it, to run synchronized, unlike the previous design which had to have them asynchronous with like 4 game tick at least delay between them. And once this piston fully extends, this block gets unlocked and the one filter item gets put into this dropper line, which will then either send it back to processing of individual items, or it will destroy it, depending on what we decide to do. You could even despawn these items if you would rotate this dropper downwards, which is also certainly a possibility. However, this would only mean that this dropper here gets filled up, right? Because there's like no way this hopper is putting them down here. That's why when this signal strength changes, this, let's say, gate here gets activated and allows the signal from this, how I would call it the best, global wire or something like that, which transports a 8 or even 4 gametic signal down to these droppers and activates them. Some of you may realize this might look a bit scary, since if we would, for example, do just this, we could in fact trigger this dropper here if we update it. Thankfully, droppers don't update each other. That means this is perfectly safe unless someone would be stupid enough to walk inside here and start placing randomly blocks while the machine is running, which hopefully nobody will ever do on our server. The reason why we have this gate and not just have the observer run like this is because dropper activations are no joke. Like, they cause a lot of lag. Like, I tested this in such a layout and it was like 30 MSPT running the whole, not even the whole storage. So yeah, that would probably not be acceptable. The reason why it's here not a problem because this can run for a long time until you fill 9 stacks of items, and then you can just take a break and destroy them or send them to the item input eventually. On smaller servers you may never even fill this dropper, to be honest. The way this allows the user to get the box he wants is by transporting it through this long pipe here. Obviously, if it's the first one, it's a shorter pipe, that's why it gets through quicker. When you press, let's go over what happens when you press the button itself. When you press the button, this line of redstone activates and powers just this slice. Don't worry, it doesn't power the rest one since it's exactly 15 blocks long. It will only power this one here, which will cause this observer here to send the pulse all the way into this dropper that will fire the item into the pipe, and then also activate this observer, which detects activation of the pipe, which will then fire this pipe and make it almost instantly appear here in front of the player. Of course, the longer you go, it always adds 6 game ticks, so this would be pretty, yeah, this would be 6 game ticks, this 12, 18, 24, 30, basically, plus the wires here on the top. The big difference between this and the previous design, which used something like this, I think it was, yeah, and it had the observers placed like this and triggered actually from this side here instead of from the other side. This is first of all a lot safer since we have a block that is being powered, not the dropper itself. Therefore there is much less issues with slices interrupting each other. It's also faster, and it allows us to have this set of droppers smaller. In the previous design we had 6, which was a lot taller. These wires were a lot longer, which caused this to be a lot slower and even more laggy, since filled droppers lag quite a bit. For the other I would say, significant improvement, it was to make this specific part, longer and optimize it. I managed to save one observer here, which means 2 game ticks for all of the items less. And by making this longer, I managed to able to get these 45-degree redstone lines in here instead of doing something crazy like with observers like this, because it wouldn't fit, which is probably one of the biggest issues of designs people make based on the USS. They don't try to reduce the amount of observers here, which causes the machine to work really slowly. The reason why some of these are powered and some not is very simple. I just couldn't fit a power source in here, and even if I would power this, I would permanently block this pipe here anyway. So I could maybe try to power this one here, but that's still not really possible. Like, there's no space to put one piece of redstone and, for example, a lever or a redstone block. Maybe I could put it like this, but that's a little tricky, to be honest. I don't want to go into that, as it would make it harder to click on the other items. No idea why I stopped falling there, or started falling rather. So yeah, that's probably about it for the functionality of this. As I already explained, the lag of this is just a joke, like being able to run 50 of these machines at the same time, since it only causes about a millisecond of lag for the server, even less, is almost nothing. And there is also an important differentiation between these and some binary storage designs, because a lot of them don't actually sort on the maximum hopper speed. They only sort maybe 1/10 of that, which obviously allows them to be a bit less laggy, which is nice, I guess, but that means you have to run them for a longer period of time, and having this thing run causes a lot more lag than having it stopped. The same goes for any storage system, basically, since now there are no clocks running, no observers or rails causing updates. So that's why I added this sort of requirement to also be really fast at processing. Therefore, if someone comes in, delivers a huge pile of boxes into the machine, it won't all of a sudden process it for days or something crazy like that. This path of ice here is just rather simple. When the box gets broken, it basically stops on this cable wall and falls down, and here you can have water that transports it to either end. This is also one thing we are currently discussing. That's if it's better to have 2 holes, basically have one slice somewhere in the center missing, or 2 even, to make it easier to access. 2 or 3, we're not sure about that either. Or having just one 100 block long line, like this. For imagining how long this would be for a regular storage that doesn't store 10 different items in these box showcasers, it would be exactly 500 blocks long for the same capacity and set of different items if you had only 2 items per slice, like one of my OP storages for regular survival players, which has only 2 items per slice. This has 10, so yeah, it wouldn't even be possible to load that. And this also sorts boxes. One box is, just for the numbers, is 1728 items. 64 times 27, and this thing stores them at 9,000 items per hour. So basically, these pipes here are powered by clocks that are triggered every 8 game ticks. It might be possible, if I come up with a good design, to trigger them every 4 game ticks and even double the sorting rate by alternating one box of one type and one box of another type. That's definitely something to do in the future, possibly. For those of you who are interested in building this, there is a few things you need to know. First of all, you need to understand how to build these pipes here at the end. It's not too difficult. Some people had issues with it, but even for example, I managed to learn it quite quickly after I explained it to him. You basically, if you are going to curve it from here to, let's say, here, you need to make it exactly this, take the exact same time as the this one down here, which is the box pipe. It shouldn't be too difficult, really. Like, I'm sure you guys can do that. Secondly, you need a layout for this. This very much depends if you want to have so many items per slice like I have, and how many of them you want to build. Or if you could even theoretically build one half of this. This was also an interesting idea, to build just half of this storage and make it super easy to access, since you could just fly from the side like this and you could easily see before you would even land where the items are. But it's probably a lot faster to access, since then the thing would be twice as long. And again, unloading issues. Unloading is a huge problem. You need to be aware of that. The way you fix this, in case it somehow breaks due to unloading, you can have a case where, for example, this redstone block is one here. The way you do that is you simply walk through like this and possibly even block this here and look through. If there, you can see the skybox, or however you want to call it, through this. If not, then you have a problem, and that means one of these pistons is stuck, extended, or the block is just dropped from it. That's fairly easy to repair. Then you just walk through here. If I could hit it. Yeah, like this, until you reach the right slice, and then you, for example, mark it or note the coordinates, and then you can walk through the top and repair it. The second part where this could happen is here on top. Yeah, the same thing. You just look through it and see if there is one of these extended. Of course, you have to stop the storage for this check to be viable, of course. Other than that, there's not really where this would ever get stuck in, since basically these hoppers also update everything. You could also add more of these lines here, for example like this, to update the comparator and the redstone dust here, in case you would unload this by accident and you don't want to load a backup or something like that. Secondly, I would not recommend servers where you are not fully aware how all of this is working. Like, if you don't understand some of these basic principles, how these machines are working, rather avoid building it. You also probably don't need to store 1000 different items in your design, since most people can easily do with 100 different items. I was even for a long time using storages which had like 40 or something like that on factions, so it could fit in a few chunks. Probably to end this on something interesting, the only designs that could actually compare to this in terms of lag are some special binary layouts which basically save you these two hoppers here. You will still have one unlocked hopper and one pipe, but instead of using these two hoppers and this filter here, you would have a binary decoder running. those things are typically extremely dangerous because of unloading, since they are not as easy to fix as just looking through it and seeing if one block is incorrectly extended, since you have basically all of the blocks extended in almost random times. Like, for since you know that if you just go over binary numbers, you can have them extended in any position, and remembering if the number 78 has the fifth digit extended or not, or fourth digit extended or not, it's just ridiculous. You won't do that by so hard, and no way you will just see it instantly if it's incorrect. That's why it's so dangerous to use I would say it, monostable binary designs. There are already some monostable binary designs being worked on, which are basically designs that don't use pistons, moving observers, or other blocks in order to work. But that's quite new technology, and as far as I'm aware, there is no functional design that would use it right now. The pipes here are also not so easy to feed. You'll need a special machine to feed them. One that will basically send the item at the same time as the box, and may work at 8 game ticks, but it's not too difficult. You just need to know a bit about box unloader technology. So that's something you guys should probably build yourself. Then you would also want some sort of pre-sorting, like I explained in my past videos, where you want to somehow tell if the boxes are almost full. Like, you don't want to store boxes that have 2 items in there in such a design, since the space is quite limited. You only want to sort almost full or full boxes. Like here, for example, the machine takes out obviously 1 item. Some people think the 1 item means it always destroys it or it loses items. That's unlikely the case, since you can just feed the items from this into your splitters and mergers to use them to fill up other boxes. However, it's an intriguing thought to use a machine that would not have this flaw. The reason why I'm not using it is rather simple, and that's because you need to break boxes. Basically, you need to place the box and put the item into it. So in order to do that, you need to work with broken boxes, or items rather, flying through the air, and that's really, I would say, unreliable in many cases. Like, even my box fillers and filters, which are designed to do this as reliably as possible, still aren't perfect, and they will probably lose you more items than you would lose even destroying all of these. And yeah, of course, they cause a lot more lag when they are running, since you have items flying through the entire machine and boxes being broken. What else did I also explain you? Probably some thoughts about this machine I have right here, in case you want to create your own setup for lag testing. This is practically an empty world. I'm alone here. We have something maybe in the spawn chunks, but there are no like super long clocks or anything that would sometimes cause a lot of lag and then don't. So yeah, that's pretty good simulation of how it actually works on most servers. So this thing here, this, I will copy this into the description of the video down below if you are interested. I'm currently at the chunk border and which one was it? Yeah, at 9 million exactly. So yeah, if you want to use these commands, you just have to move there in your testing world. This basically clones the first slice. Then this thing again clones the first slice, but after that we have one that actually clones the one that will be placed here. So let's say, let me demonstrate. I'll hit this, and now I can change this in case of two white tileable machines. And now when I activate this one, yeah, we get this alternating pattern here. Yeah, I removed it. The second one, this one just deletes everything. It's basically the same thing, except these ones are set to need redstone, while these ones are just filling air and set to always active. This is also so the length of the render distance or drift distance, or however you want to call this. And here I have just 100 of these, so the rest doesn't activate, but I don't always need to place them back. And this one here, this is my favorite. This actually places a wall here of hardened clay, which makes it a lot easier to build, especially with these slabs, which are normally quite tricky to make, especially in these diagonal shapes here. But this makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so that will be in the description. I'll also probably link the Prototech Discord server there. So yeah, that's probably everything I have to say about this. Please like and subscribe. I'll do more versions of this. I have already a few in the works and with other people. So yeah, there will definitely be updates to this. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.